I agreed to open our relationship. Now my ex is behind bars. I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these posts, but here I am at 3 in the morning, unable to sleep, replaying the absolute chaos that became my life over the past 8 months. This story has everything: betrayal, forbidden feelings, manipulation, and a courtroom ending I didn't see coming. Buckle up, because this is going to be a ride. For context, I'm 26, and until recently, I had been with my girlfriend Sarah for 4 years. We met in college, moved in together after graduation, and honestly, I thought we were solid. Sure, we had our issues like any couple, but nothing that made me think we were heading toward disaster. I was wrong. So incredibly wrong. It started on a random Tuesday evening about 8 months ago. We were sitting on our couch, halfway through some forgettable Netflix show, when Sarah suddenly paused it and turned to me with this weird, nervous energy I'd never seen before. "We need to talk about something," she said, and my stomach immediately dropped. Those 5 words have never led anywhere good in the history of relationships. I braced myself for a breakup speech, but instead she launched into this whole prepared presentation about how she'd been thinking about our relationship structure. She talked about personal growth, exploring connections, not limiting ourselves, and a bunch of therapy speak that basically boiled down to one thing: she wanted us to have an open relationship. I sat there stunned. This had come completely out of left field. We'd never discussed anything remotely like this before. When I asked where this was coming from, she got defensive and said she'd been reading about alternative relationship structures and felt like we were missing out on experiences by being exclusive. She was 25, she said, and didn't want to wake up at 40 wondering what else was out there. The conversation went on for hours. She kept pushing, saying it would make us stronger, that it was just physical and wouldn't affect what we had. I was completely against it at first, but she was relentless. She cried, said she felt trapped, asked if I didn't trust her. Eventually, worn down and terrified of losing her, I agreed. But I made it clear I had zero interest in sleeping with anyone else. She was it for me. "That's totally fine," she said, looking relieved. "You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. This is just about having the option." Right. She wasted exactly 0 time exercising that option. 2 days later, she came home at 2 in the morning smelling like someone else's cologne. She was all smiles, acting like nothing was wrong, while I sat there feeling like someone had reached into my chest and crushed my heart with their bare hands. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I'd agreed to. The next day, it happened again. Different guy. She didn't even try to hide it anymore. She'd get ready, tell me she was going out, and return hours later with that same satisfied look on her face that used to be reserved for me. I was dying inside, but felt trapped by my own agreement. I'd said yes to this. I'd opened this door. How could I complain now? By the time she'd been with her 10th guy in less than 3 weeks, I was a shell of myself. I'd lost 15 pounds, couldn't focus at work, and spent most nights lying awake while she slept peacefully beside me. My friends noticed something was wrong, but I was too ashamed to tell them what was happening. That's when Emma came into the picture. Well, she'd always been in the picture. She was Sarah's best friend since high school, and I'd known her almost as long as I'd known Sarah. But she became important in a new way during my breakdown. Emma had stopped by our apartment one evening when Sarah was out with guy number 12 or 13, I'd lost count by then. She took one look at me and knew something was seriously wrong. I tried to brush it off, but she wouldn't let it go. Eventually, the whole story came pouring out. Emma was furious. "She pressured you into this? Are you kidding me? That's so messed up." Just having someone validate that I wasn't crazy for feeling destroyed felt like oxygen after drowning. We talked for hours that night. She listened, really listened, in a way Sarah hadn't in months. And somewhere in that conversation, I remembered something I'd buried a long time ago. 5 years earlier, before Sarah and I got together, I'd actually had feelings for Emma first. We'd met at a party, hit it off immediately, and I was planning to ask her out. Then she introduced me to her best friend, Sarah, and something clicked with Sarah instead. Emma and I became friends, and I convinced myself that what I'd felt for her had just been a fleeting attraction. But sitting there with her, seeing the genuine concern in her eyes, feeling actually cared for again, those old feelings came roaring back. And maybe it was the emotional devastation I was going through, or maybe it was years of suppressed feelings finally surfacing. But I did something impulsive and probably stupid. "Do you want to sleep with me?"
I asked. The words hung in the air between us. Emma's eyes went wide, and for a horrible moment, I thought I'd just ruined our friendship and made everything infinitely worse. But then she said, yes. I won't go into details, but that night with Emma was everything the past month with Sarah hadn't been. It wasn't just physical. There was emotion behind it. Connection. The feeling of being wanted rather than tolerated. Afterward, lying there in my bed that I hadn't shared with Sarah in any meaningful way for weeks, I had a realization that hit me like a freight train. I was in love with Emma. Maybe I always had been. Maybe I'd chosen wrong 5 years ago. That night turned into another night, and another. Whenever Sarah was out exploring, Emma would come over. We'd talk for hours, laugh in ways I hadn't laughed in months, and yes, we'd sleep together. But it was so much more than that. I felt like I was remembering what it was like to be happy. This went on for about 2 months. Sarah was too caught up in her own adventures to notice anything was different. She'd sometimes ask why I seemed happier, and I'd make up something about getting used to our new arrangement. She seemed pleased with that answer. Then one night, everything exploded. Sarah came home early, unexpected. Emma and I were on the couch, not doing anything particularly incriminating, but the energy between us must have been obvious. Sarah stopped dead in the doorway, looking between us with narrowing eyes. "What's going on here?" she asked slowly. "Nothing," I said, which was technically true in that exact moment. But Sarah wasn't stupid. Over the next week, she started watching me more carefully. She went through my phone when I was in the shower and found messages between Emma and me. Nothing explicit, but affectionate enough that the truth was obvious. The confrontation was nuclear. "You're sleeping with Emma, my best friend? How could you?" The irony wasn't lost on me. "You've slept with at least 20 different guys in the past 3 months. This is what you wanted, an open relationship." "Not with her!" Sarah's face was red, tears streaming down her cheeks. "That's a complete betrayal." We argued for hours. She demanded I stop seeing Emma immediately. When I refused, she tried a different tact. Tears, guilt trips, bringing up all the good times we'd had together. None of it worked. For the first time in months, I felt clear-headed about what I wanted. "So you're just going to keep seeing her?" she asked, her voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. "Yes," I said simply. That's when she switched tactics again. "Fine, then let's close the relationship. Back to just us, exclusive, like before. I was wrong to suggest opening things up. Let's go back." For a moment, I almost considered it. This was what I'd wanted for months, wasn't it? For things to go back to how they were? But then I realized I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want to be with Sarah at all. That ship had sailed the moment she'd walked out our door to be with guy number 1. "No," I said. "I don't want to close the relationship. I want to end it. We're done." I expected anger. Instead, Sarah went very quiet, very still. "You don't mean that." "I do. I'm sorry, but this isn't working. It hasn't been working for a long time." She left that night, staying at a friend's place. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong again. The next few weeks were psychological warfare. Sarah launched a full-scale campaign to destroy what Emma and I had. She started by trying to turn Emma's other friends against her, spreading rumors that Emma had seduced me while I was in a vulnerable state, that she'd betrayed their friendship. Some people believed it. Then she started messaging me constantly, long walls of text, about how Emma had always been jealous of what we had, how she'd manipulated me, how she'd probably been planning this for years. She sent me old photos of us from happier times, reminded me of inside jokes, played every manipulation card she had. With Emma, she was even worse. She'd show up at Emma's work, cause scenes, accuse her of being a terrible person. She made fake social media accounts to send Emma hateful messages. She told Emma's family lies about her, causing drama there too. At first, it worked. Emma and I started fighting. We were both stressed and exhausted from the constant harassment, and we took it out on each other. There were days I wondered if Sarah was right, if I'd made a huge mistake, if Emma and I were just a product of shared trauma rather than real connection. But then Emma found something that changed everything. One of Sarah's friends, someone she'd apparently complained to about us, felt guilty enough to reach out to Emma. She forwarded a series of messages Sarah had sent her, detailing her entire plan. Sarah had written out step by step how she was going to make Emma and me hate each other, how she'd drive wedges between us, specific lies she'd tell each of us about the other. It was all there, premeditated and calculated. I called Sarah and told her I had the messages, that I knew what she'd been doing. I told her it was over, to leave us both alone, and that if she didn't, there would be consequences. She didn't take it well. "You can't prove anything," she said, her voice shaking. "And I'm not done. You two destroyed me. You're going to pay for what you did." That's when things got scary. Sarah started following us. I'd see her car outside my apartment at odd hours. She'd show up at restaurants where Emma and I were having dinner, sitting at nearby tables, just staring. She sent packages to both our addresses. Nothing threatening enough to obviously be illegal, but creepy. Old photos of us cut up. Items of mine she'd kept. Strange notes. Emma was terrified. I was terrified. We filed a police report, but they said without explicit threats, there wasn't much they could do. Then Sarah escalated. One night, Emma woke up to find Sarah in her apartment. She'd somehow gotten a key. We later found out she'd stolen Emma's spare from their friend who had it for emergencies. Sarah was just standing there in the dark of Emma's bedroom, watching her sleep. Emma screamed and called 911. Sarah ran before the police arrived, but this time, they took it seriously. Breaking and entering was a crime they could act on. They issued an emergency protective order, which Sarah violated within 48 hours by showing up at my workplace and causing a scene so dramatic that building security had to remove her. The violations kept coming. She'd text us from burner phones, create fake social media profiles to message us, leave things at our doors. Each violation was documented, reported, added to the growing case against her. The final straw came when Sarah tried to break into my apartment while Emma and I were there. We had installed security cameras after the incident at Emma's place, so we had video of her using some kind of tool to try to pick the lock at 2 in the morning. When that didn't work, she started throwing rocks at the windows, screaming that we'd ruined her life, that we deserved everything coming to us. The police arrested her that night. The prosecutor, looking at the pattern of escalating behavior and the multiple protective order violations, decided to actually pursue charges. Sarah was charged with stalking, breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and violation of a protective order. Multiple counts. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was just a heartbroken woman acting out of pain. The prosecutor countered with the evidence we'd compiled. The premeditated messages about manipulating us, the systematic stalking, the clear pattern of escalating criminal behavior. The video of her trying to break into my apartment while making threatening statements was particularly damaging. 3 months ago, Sarah took a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for a 1-year sentence in county jail and 5 years probation. Part of the probation terms included a permanent restraining order requiring her to stay at least half a mile, that's 2,640 feet, away from both Emma and me at all times. I sat in that courtroom watching them take her away, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness, just numbness. This woman I'd spent 4 years of my life with, who I'd once imagined marrying, was going to jail because she couldn't accept that we were over. Emma and I have been together officially for 6 months now. We got an apartment together in a different part of the city, somewhere Sarah doesn't know about. We're both in therapy, individual and couples, working through the trauma of everything that happened. Some days are harder than others. I don't regret agreeing to open our relationship anymore, which probably sounds insane. If I hadn't agreed, I might have stayed with Sarah for years, maybe forever, never realizing that what we had wasn't real love. I never would have reconnected with Emma in a meaningful way. I never would have discovered what it feels like to be with someone who actually prioritizes my feelings and well-being. Emma is incredible. She's patient with my baggage, understanding when I have bad days, supportive in ways Sarah never was. We communicate about everything, probably over-communicate if that's possible. We check in constantly about how we're feeling, what we need, whether we're okay. It's like learning a new language after years of misunderstanding. There are still moments where I wonder if I'm somehow at fault for all of this. If I just said no to the open relationship from the start, would Sarah have broken up with me and moved on normally? Would she have found help for whatever was broken inside her? Could I have prevented her ending up in jail? My therapist keeps telling me that Sarah made her own choices at every step. I didn't force her to sleep with 20-plus guys in 3 months. I didn't force her to manipulate Emma and me. I definitely didn't force her to stalk us and break into our homes. Those were all her decisions, and she has to live with the consequences. Still, there's something surreal about knowing that someone you once loved is sitting in a cell because they couldn't let you go. Sometimes I think about what Sarah's life is like now. The friends she's lost, the family who's disappointed in her, the criminal record she'll carry forever. And I remember the fear in Emma's eyes when she woke up to find Sarah standing over her bed, and any sympathy I might feel evaporates. Emma's been amazing through all of this, but I know it's taken a toll on her too. She lost her best friend of over a decade. Their entire friend group imploded. Some people sided with Sarah, some with Emma. Most just wanted to stay out of it entirely. Emma had to change jobs because Sarah kept showing up at her old workplace. She has nightmares sometimes about waking up to find Sarah in her room again.
We're rebuilding, though. Slowly. We have new friends, people who don't know the whole messy history. We're planning a trip to Europe next summer, something neither of us has done before. We talk about the future in concrete terms, where we want to live long term, career goals, whether we want kids someday, things I never really discussed with Sarah beyond vague hypotheticals. In about 9 months, Sarah will be released from jail. I try not to think about it, but it's always there in the back of my mind. Will she have learned anything? Will she have gotten help? Or will she come out angrier, more determined to make our lives hell, within the boundaries of that half-mile restraining order? My lawyer assures me that if she violates the order even once, she'll go back to jail for the remainder of her probation, potentially 5 years. He says most people learn their lesson after serving time. I want to believe that. But I also bought a more comprehensive security system for our new apartment, and I vary my route to work every day, and I'm hyper-aware of my surroundings in ways I never was before. Emma carries pepper spray now, something she never felt the need for before all this. It's messed up that we have to live this way because I fell in love with the wrong person, according to Sarah's rules. Because I dared to find happiness after she destroyed our relationship. Because I chose myself for once instead of contorting into whatever shape she needed me to be. Looking back, I can see all the red flags I missed with Sarah. The way she'd guilt-tripped me over small things. How she always had to be right in arguments. Subtle ways she'd isolate me from friends she didn't like. How she made everything about her needs and feelings. I was so caught up in the relationship, so invested in making it work, that I couldn't see how unhealthy it had become. Emma is different in every way. She pushes back when she disagrees with me, but respectfully. She encourages me to spend time with friends, even helps me reconnect with people I'd drifted away from during my relationship with Sarah. She asks about my feelings and actually listens to the answers. She's shown me what a healthy relationship can look like, and now I can never unsee it. Some people might judge me for sleeping with my girlfriend's best friend. I get it. On paper, it looks bad. But those people weren't living my life. They didn't experience the soul-crushing despair of watching someone you love sleep with dozens of other people while you slowly died inside. They didn't experience the relief of finally being seen and valued by someone who actually cares. I'm not saying I handled everything perfectly. I probably should have broken up with Sarah the moment she suggested opening our relationship instead of agreeing to something that made me miserable. I probably should have been clearer with Emma about my feelings before we slept together that first time. There are 100 small decisions I could have made differently, but I'm not sorry for how things turned out. Emma makes me happy in ways I didn't know were possible. We're building something real together, something based on mutual respect and actual love, rather than manipulation and guilt. So here I am, at 26 years old, with an ex-girlfriend in jail, a restraining order to my name, a new relationship with someone incredible, and a story that sounds too crazy to be true. Life is weird, man. To anyone reading this who's in a relationship that makes them unhappy, whether it's open, closed, or complicated, please listen to your gut. Don't let someone pressure you into arrangements that destroy your mental health. Don't stay out of fear or obligation. Don't sacrifice your well-being for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. And if you find yourself falling for your partner's best friend, well, I can't say I recommend it. But sometimes the universe works in strange ways. Sometimes the person you were supposed to be with was there all along. You just couldn't see it yet. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Sarah will come out of jail reformed and leave us alone. Maybe we'll be looking over our shoulders for years. Maybe Emma and I will last forever. Or maybe we'll crash and burn like any relationship can. But for now, for today, I'm happy. I'm with someone who loves me for who I am, not who they want me to be. I'm free from a toxic situation that was slowly destroying me. And I have a crazy story that I'll probably never tell at parties because, honestly, who would believe it? Thanks for reading this absolute novel. I just needed to get it all out there, to process it somehow. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Stay safe out there, and don't agree to open relationships just because you're afraid of losing someone. Sometimes losing them is exactly what needs to happen. Related comments. Okay, I'm going to be the controversial one here, but you're not entirely innocent in this mess either. Yeah, Sarah pressured you into the open relationship, and that sucks. But the moment you started having feelings for Emma, you should have ended things with Sarah. Instead, you kept the relationship going while secretly falling for her best friend. That's emotional cheating even in an open relationship. Don't get me wrong, Sarah's behavior after the breakup was absolutely psychotic and illegal.
She deserves what she got. But the way you paint yourself as this perfect victim who did nothing wrong, nah, Nan, you made choices too. You could have said no. You could have broken up with her after guy number 2 or 3 instead of torturing yourself through 20-plus guys. You could have not slept with her best friend while technically still together. I'm glad you're happy now with Emma, but let's not pretend this whole situation doesn't have some serious messy ethics on all sides. Author, you're not wrong, and I've thought about this a lot in therapy. I should have ended it way sooner. The Emma thing, yeah, I know how it looks. At the time, I felt like I was already single because Sarah had checked out completely. But you're right that technically we were still together. I own that. I guess I'm just trying to explain how I got from point A to point B, not saying every decision I made was the right one. Comment. This is a perfect example of why open relationships rarely work when they're not established from the beginning. When someone suddenly wants to open up a previously monogamous relationship, 99% of the time it means they already have someone specific in mind, or they've already cheated and want retroactive permission. OP, I'd bet money Sarah had already been seeing someone before she even brought up the open relationship conversation. The fact that she was with someone 2 days later? Yeah, she'd already lined that up. You were being manipulated from the start. I've seen this pattern so many times. One partner pushes for opening things up, the other reluctantly agrees, then the person who pushed gets furious when their partner actually uses the freedom too. It's because they never wanted their partner to have options. They just wanted permission to cheat without consequences. Good for you for getting out. The stalking stuff is terrifying though. Stay safe and document everything even after she gets out. Comment. Am I the only one feeling bad for Emma here? Like, yes, OP went through hell, but Emma lost her best friend of 10 years, got harassed at work, had someone break into her apartment and watch her sleep, and now has to live in fear with pepper spray and probably has massive trust issues. And on top of all that, everyone in the comments is debating whether OP was wrong to sleep with her. Nobody's talking about how Emma probably feels guilty, even though she didn't do anything wrong. Sarah created this entire situation. Emma just comforted someone who was hurting and caught feelings. That's pretty human. I hope Emma's doing okay and getting the therapy she needs too. This whole thing probably messed her up even more than OP, because she lost the lifelong friendship and got traumatized by that same person. Author, you're absolutely right. Emma's been incredibly strong through all of this, but I know she struggles with guilt, even though she shouldn't. She's told me she sometimes wonders if she subconsciously wanted this to happen, if she had hidden feelings for me the whole time and manipulated the situation. She didn't. I know she didn't. But trauma makes you question everything. She's in therapy too and slowly working through it. I probably should have talked more about what she went through in my post. You're right that she's been dealing with just as much, if not more. Comment. Attorney here. Family law. Just want to clarify some things about the restraining order situation, since there's some confusion in the comments. 1. The half-mile, 2,640 feet distance is actually pretty standard for stalking cases with this level of severity. I've seen them range from 500 feet to 1 full mile, depending on the circumstances. 2. OP mentioned Sarah got 1 year in county jail. That's actually pretty significant for a first-time offender. The prosecutor must have had a very strong case. Breaking and entering, plus multiple restraining order violations, plus documented stalking pattern equals they took this seriously. 3. When she gets out, if she violates the order even once, she's not just going back for the original sentence, she'll be charged with a new crime, violation of protective order, which could add years to her probation or even additional jail time. That 5-year probation is no joke. She'll have to report regularly, possibly do counseling, and any slip-up could extend it or land her back in jail. This isn't a crazy ex situation anymore. This is someone with a criminal record who will have serious consequences if she doesn't comply. OP, make sure you keep all your documentation organized and backed up in multiple places. And consider getting a lawyer on retainer just in case anything happens when she's released. Stay safe out there. Comment. I had something weirdly similar happen to me 3 years ago, except nobody went to jail, unfortunately. My girlfriend of 6 years suddenly wanted to explore other people. I was devastated, but agreed because I'm an idiot. She immediately started seeing this guy from her gym, like she definitely had him lined up already, yeah? Meanwhile, I was absolutely falling apart. Lost my job because I couldn't focus, stopped eating properly, the whole 9 yards. Then my older brother's wife, my sister-in-law, started checking in on me. She'd bring me food, make sure I was okay, just being kind. One night, after a few drinks, we ended up kissing, and I felt awful, but also alive again, like I remembered what it felt like to be wanted. We never actually slept together because the guilt was eating both of us alive, but my girlfriend found some messages and absolutely lost it, started telling everyone I'd had an affair with my brother's wife, which technically not wrong, but also we were in an open relationship, so 12? Tried to turn my whole family against me. My brother didn't talk to me for 8 months. Eventually, the truth came out about how she'd manipulated the whole situation, and most people came around, but my relationship with my brother is still weird. And my girlfriend? She's now married to that gym guy and acts like none of it ever happened. So yeah, OP, I feel you. It's mental how the person who pushed for the open relationship becomes the victim the second you actually find someone else. It was never about freedom. It was about control. Hope you and Emma stay safe when Sarah gets out. People like that don't just suddenly become rational. Author. Jesus, that's rough, man. I'm sorry about your brother. That must have been awful. Did your sister-in-law face any fallout from her husband? And yeah, you're right about the control thing. I didn't see it at the time, but looking back, Sarah's whole personality was about controlling situations and people. The open relationship was just another control tactic. She wanted the freedom to do what she wanted while keeping me locked down and miserable. Glad you got out too, even though it cost you a lot. Another answer. My brother eventually understood that his wife was just being a good person trying to help, but it took a lot of couples therapy for them. They're okay now, but she feels horrible about the whole thing still. The worst part is my ex acted like she was the injured party the entire time when she was literally living with the gym guy within a month of our breakup. Some people just can't accept that they're the problem, you know?
Comment. Honestly, this whole post reads like it was written by someone trying to justify being a terrible person. You started sleeping with your girlfriend's best friend while you were still together, and you're surprised she had a breakdown? Yes, she suggested the open relationship, but that doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want with whoever you want without consequences. There's unwritten rules about open relationships. You don't sleep with people in your partner's close circle. That's basic respect. Sarah probably had mental health issues that this whole situation triggered. Maybe she needed help, not jail time. Maybe if you'd been honest with her from the start, instead of sneaking around with Emma, she wouldn't have spiraled so badly. I'm not saying the stalking was okay, but I understand why she felt betrayed enough to act out. You literally replaced her with her best friend. That's devastating. Answer. Did you miss the part where she broke into Emma's apartment and watched her sleep? That's not acting out. That's psychotic criminal behavior. Mental health issues don't excuse stalking and breaking and entering. Plenty of people have mental health problems and don't become criminals. Another answer. Team Sarah actually? Sounds like maybe you are Sarah posting from jail emoji. Nobody in their right mind reads this story and thinks OP is the main villain here. Write what you think about this situation. Also, if you like this video, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the bell to receive notifications about the latest videos. See you next time. Bye-bye.